basketball guys, we have news. Let's go to more news from the Golden State Warriors, but before that, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your like. With each game, the Warriors have disappointed their fans. The team is unable to meet on the court and has lost games in strange ways. The Warriors need roster upgrades urgently, because Stephen Curry's patience is already running out and he needs a reliable star at his side. Strong rumors, Jimmy Butler has preference to play for the Golden State Warriors. Golden State back in the frame for the 6x All-Star? Just 48 hours after Jimmy Butler appeared likely to remain at the Miami Heat beyond the February 6 trade deadline, there's been another turn in the 35-year-old's future that could have major implications for the Golden State Warriors. According to ESPN's Shams Charania, Butler would prefer a trade out of Miami in the coming weeks despite the franchise having won 5 of their last 8 games and sitting 6th in the Eastern Conference standings. Jimmy Butler has the Warriors as a top trade destination. The lack of a contract extension has led to this point for Butler, who can opt out of his $52.4 million player option and become a free agent in the offseason. That would behoove any team that trades for him to offer what might have to be over $50 million per season on a multi-year extension, or risk losing him for nothing just months after relinquishing genuine assets to make a trade happen. 2 teams who could do that are the Warriors and Phoenix Suns, both of who sit on top of Butler's preferred destinations. Either way, a trade is sure to impact Golden State, whether it's they themselves acquiring the 6x All-Star or a Western Conference rival doing so. News of Butler's desire to be traded from the Heat could be an early Christmas present for the Warriors, who are trying to secure another star player to pair with Stephen Curry. Golden State have ranked 25th in offensive rating over the last 13 games, with the lack of a bona fide second star limiting their scoring firepower, as this list of Christmas wishes suggested. There's still a myriad of hurdles to jump over to make a Butler trade happen, particularly in regard to his $48.8 million salary and the fact the Warriors would have to send out at least 4 players, including starting small forward Andrew Wiggins. One thing working in Golden State's favor is that Phoenix executing a deal for Butler appears even more difficult. While the Suns do have Bradley Beal's massive contract to match salaries, it would not only require the Heat, or a third team, to be willing to take on Beal, but also for the 31-year-old to agree to the deal, given he's one of only 2 players in the entire league to hold a full no-trade clause. Pelicans should help get Jimmy Butler to the Golden State Warriors. Jimmy Butler has asked out of Miami, giving the Pelicans an opportunity to get involved before the trade deadline. The New Orleans Pelicans are expected to be heavily involved before the 2024-25 NBA season's trade deadline. The team has reportedly made nearly everyone on the roster available to be moved outside of a few young prospects they'd like to keep around for the future, including second-year guard Jordan Hawkins, who was recently named an untouchable asset for them. That leaves them with an absolute trove of high-level veterans and stars that they could deal away this year, including Zion Williamson, C.J. McCollum, and, of course, Brandon Ingram. The market for these players could be scarce or even barren, as it was reported that league executives don't expect many big contracts to be traded this season, but the tides could be changing. One major domino that could lead to a flurry of high-profile swaps going down is Jimmy Butler, who has apparently decided that his time with the Miami Heat will be coming to an end soon. The All-NBA wing out of Marquette has a $50 million player option for next season and has quietly made it known that he plans on opting out and signing with a different team in the offseason, essentially strong-arming the Heat into trading him this year, lest they risk losing him for nothing in the offseason. The Pelicans are in a similar situation with Ingram, who is currently in the last year of his contract. At season's end, he'll become an unrestricted free agent unless he agrees to an extension with New Orleans before June 30th, although they'd need some kind of confirmation from him before the trade deadline, or else they'll be in the same situation as Miami, in danger of losing a valuable asset with nothing in return. That's why it's best for the Pelicans to trade him before the deadline, so they can ensure that they can receive something in exchange for his services at the least, just as it would behoove the Heat to deal Butler before he can walk away in free agency. Trading Jimmy Butler won't be an easy task for Miami, but the New Orleans Pelicans could draw up something that would benefit both them and the Heat. The New Orleans Pelicans should facilitate a Jimmy Butler trade to the Golden State Warriors. ESPN's Shams Charania originally stated that Butler had asked for a trade away from the Miami Heat, preferably to 3 different destinations: the Golden State Warriors, Phoenix Suns, or Houston Rockets. That report was refuted by Butler's agent, Bernie Lee. Charania doubled down on that news in response and has since released another report confirming that Butler prefers to be traded, this time narrowing his list of new teams to just 2, the Warriors and the Suns. Both of teams would be hard-pressed to cobble together a package that would appease the Heat, who would likely look to remain competitive with Bam Adebayo, Tyler Herro, and other win-now players still on the roster. The Warriors have some exciting young prospects that would interest a lot of teams in the league, but they wouldn't be able to send anyone that could keep the Heat in contention without gutting their roster and essentially negating any benefits from acquiring Butler. That's where the Pelicans come in. New Orleans doesn't have any reason to trade for Butler now that their season has been lost to injury. As they've seemingly chosen to rebuild their roster, though, they should be highly interested in Golden State's young players and any draft capital they could acquire before the trade deadline. New Orleans Pelicans receive Jonathan Kuminga, Nikola Jovic, Andrew Wiggins, Gary Payton II, and Terry Rozier. Golden State Warriors receive Jimmy Butler, Alec Burks. Miami Heat receive Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum, Kevin Looney. This trade would accomplish the goals of all 3 teams involved. The Warriors wind up with Jimmy Butler while maintaining their depth and building a championship contender around their new star forward, Stephen Curry, and Draymond Green. Alec Burks comes in to help replenish some of the wing depth they lose in this deal. The Heat would stay competitive after this deal and could even slightly improve. CJ McCollum gives them another ball handler, something they've desperately needed practically throughout the entirety of the Bam Adebayo era in Miami. His blend of playmaking and self-sufficient scoring would help mitigate the offensive droughts that the Heat have been prone to succumb to, especially in the playoffs. Miami downgrades slightly on the flanks from Butler to Brandon Ingram, but his presence should significantly soften the blow. Warriors fans calling for Andrew Wiggins' trade after Austin Reeves' game winner. Stephen Curry may have been struggling a bit over the past few games, putting up stinkers against the Memphis Grizzlies and Indiana Pacers. But the Golden State Warriors star was at his best once more during their Christmas Day tussle against LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers. He scored the Warriors' final 8 points of the game as they tied the game at 113 courtesy of a deep 3-ball from Curry. However, there were still 6.3 seconds left on the clock, and Austin Reeves took full advantage. With Curry and Draymond Green denying LeBron James the ball on the inbounds play, Max Christie gave the ball to Reeves, who was isolated against Andrew Wiggins. Reeves, who was having himself a night, blew by Wiggins and took it all the way to the cup for the go-ahead layup that ended up giving the Lakers the win over the Warriors. Now, the Lakers deserve credit for maintaining some very good spacing and for utilizing James as a decoy, thus removing Green, the Warriors' best defender, from the action. But Wiggins still played some very inexcusable defense, with Reeves getting the step on him towards the baseline. And with no rim protector present for the Dubs, everything was too easy for the Lakers guard. As a result of this horrific defensive play, social media put the Warriors forward on blast, saying that the Dubs must find a way to trade Wiggins after that debacle. Warriors should literally find every way possible to trade Wiggins. He's a downfall to that team. That guy career fell clean off the map, @_Gappour wrote on X, formerly Twitter. Trade Wiggins, please. Terrible defender, @RussWestFacts added. There's no F***King way you give up a layup that easily? Andrew Wiggins gotta be ashamed of himself, @FeelLikeDrew furthered. You lose on a Austin Reeves wide open layup, really? You ruined Steph Curry's masterclass like that? Trade Andrew Wiggins to China now, at YT_solo exclaimed. Having Andrew Wiggins on Austin Reeves on that final possession was as good as the Warriors can draw up. Perhaps Dennis Schroeder could have matched Reeves' speed much better, but Wiggins' height and length advantage would have given him the edge when it comes to contesting the shot. Alas, nothing seems to be going right for the Warriors these days that one of their best perimeter defenders would get cooked in that scenario. They simply must find a way to stop the bleeding or else their free fall down the West standings will continue. Analyst believes the Warriors could miss the playoffs. The Golden State Warriors have lost 11 of their last 14 games. They're now ranked 10th in the Western Conference, just one game ahead of the San Antonio Spurs for the final play-in tournament spot. That's why Bobby Marks believes their next 6-game stretch will be crucial to determine the fate of their season. He argued that while the team will be heavily tied to Jimmy Butler until the trade deadline, their next string of games will be crucial for them. Talking on ESPN's Get Up, Marks argued that the team might miss the playoffs altogether if it doesn't fare well during that stretch, including the play-in. Plenty of basketball remains to be played this season, but the Warriors need to find some answers and consistency. As Marks pointed out in that segment, they have had 17 different starting lineups in just 29 games this season. While deep, those long rotations aren't working out for Steve Kerr, and they might start wondering whether Jonathan Kuminga is as good as they thought he'd be. Jimmy Butler might help them immediately, but he's also aging and injury-prone. Any move involving him will most likely determine how desperate the Warriors are to win another championship with Stephen Curry at the helm. Their trade for Dennis Schroeder hasn't done much to help their case, and some believe they could reroute him somewhere else. Whatever the case, the fact of the matter is that they will have to do something.